Fuzzy Kitten of Doom. Hello, and welcome back to my realistic series of Kerbal Space Program. That song was horrible. Whoever made that song needs to be fired. Seriously, though, if you have anything better or a title card or anything like that that you would like to contribute, feel free to send me a message or give me an email at fcoggaming@gmail. Now that I have that out of the way, I do have an announcement regarding the space program. Jeb has decided, because of budget constraints, that we're only going to have one rocket launch every 7 Kerbal days. And the main reason for that, aside from, budget cuts, is just so that I can have an excuse to make a space station and a Kethane refueling station as well. And it just makes things a little bit more interesting and makes time, well, in-game time, pass a little bit faster. So, yeah, that's why we're making this Kethane scanning probe, which is ultimately going to be going to Minimus. The plan being that I'm going to set up a small station in orbit around Minimus and then farm science out from there, which will come into play later on in the video. But yeah, basically just a very simple probe, Kethane scanner, solar panels, battery, all shoved into that fairing, which looks very nice and very phallic by the time it's done. And yeah, so we are off. And I'm not going to bore you with details as far as launch and circulation and all that good stuff. I've seen it a million times. I've shown it a few times on this channel already. So we're just going to go ahead and skip through most of that stuff. I do leave a few things in just for cinematic reasons. But yeah, we're going to have this guy go out on his mission and find that sweet, sweet Kethane, which we all know and love. Yeah, so basically the fairing detaches there. I do love how those fairings detach and just float away. Very beautiful. It's very beautiful animation. But yeah, so just for you newer players, they're kind of intimidated by the whole Minimus mission. Once you get your inclination correct and actually go out there, it actually takes less delta V to land on Minimus and return than it does to land on the moon and return. So keep that in mind while you're planning your missions if you're newer to the game. It does take more to go out there and send a probe like this, but yeah. So we're just setting up our capture burn there. Now, you do notice that I'm in a highly elliptical orbit, and the reason for that is because basically I want to get this into a polar orbit, which is a 90-degree inclination. And the reason I want to do that is so that as I orbit, the moon is going to rotate underneath me, and I can scan different parts of the moon. So if you have a highly elliptical orbit, if you go to the periapse and do your burn there, it takes a lot less delta V than if you were in completely circular orbit. Basically, you want to do that while you are as far away and going as slow as you can. And I circularize this to about 15 kilometers and start the probe going. Now, if you haven't run the Kethane mod before, basically those gray areas mean that there's no Kethane, and you'll hear a higher pitched beep coming up. And that indicates that it's found Kethane, and I'll switch this around to the other side of the planet, or to the moon rather, and you see those green areas. That means that there's a Kethane deposit there. And I'm just going to keep that running and survey most of the planet. Now in the meantime, since we have that 7-day launch window, it takes about 8 days for that probe to get out to Minimus. So in the meantime, I decided to do another exploration mission to the moon with our Mark III lander. Now this one does have enough fuel. I set it up in a simulation beforehand so that I don't have the same issues that I've had in the past. And basically we're doing a mission to the east far side crater, I believe. And it's just a matter of doing a deorbit burn there to, basically the middle of the crater. And yeah, basically your standard landing. I do end up angling this up as I'm killing my horizontal velocity just because I was a little bit nervous about hitting the ridge of that crater there, which it turns out that I don't even go past, so I don't know why I even bothered. But yeah. Jebediah, in all of his mastery, manages to set it down at a reasonable speed. I think we touched down at about 3 meters per second or so. And yeah, it's a pretty standard moon exploration mission. Now, I do know that I use MechJeb. It makes it a lot easier to do a manual landing, if you can call it a manual landing. But yeah, I don't consider it cheating because it's unlocked in the tech tree. So if you have an issue with that, too bad. But yeah, I had that nifty ladder going down the side of the spacecraft. Jeb goes ahead and plants his flag and takes a moment for a photo op, and then goes about his business, getting surface samples, EVA reports, mystery goo reports, and all that good stuff, taking all of them to the capsule and transmitting the ones that are worth transmitting, and taking the rest back to Kerbal. Now, yeah, so the side tanks there, those were actually burnt up before I even landed, but they do provide extra stability as far as when you're actually landing, so I decided to keep them on until I took back off. And go ahead and separate our transfer stage there. I do love with this deadly reentry that it actually blows the debris up, which you'll see in a second here. It's just fun to watch. I don't know, something about explosions, especially when they're explosions that don't affect your mission at all. Just always fun to watch. And here they come, things are getting hot, and there we are. It's so pretty to watch. Too bad the way the window is in that capsule, Jeb can't watch as well. If I would have been paying attention on this re-entry, I would have actually gotten a little bit closer to KSC just for the fact that I could. I was heading right for it, but I just wasn't paying attention before I popped those parachutes, which I'm using the Real Chutes mod, which has this triple parachute option, which is very good, but yeah, using triple parachutes with just a capsule, as you can see, slows it down to 2.4 meters per second, which makes the descent agonizingly long. You're watching this at 4 times in-game acceleration and 8 times post-production acceleration, which, yeah, it took a while. So anyway, we're able to unlock a little bit more of the tech tree, namely some parts that I'm going to be using in that station construction that I mentioned earlier. And the next 7-day window comes up, and we decided to launch this bad boy, which is the main core of that space, the science station that I mentioned earlier. So basically you have a 3-man command pod, the 2-man science lab, and a bunch of battery and life support. So this by itself is a pretty viable space station for what I'm going to be using it for, but the way that I want to do it is I want to harvest fuel from Minimus and then use that to fuel my science missions. So ultimately I'm going to be having a fuel module on there as well, but that'll come in the next episode. And until then, I leave you with this shot reminding us how small we are. So remember to take care of yourself out there. I'll see you next time.